Hello and welcome to the Rangers News YouTube channel. My name is Cameron Willis and I'm joined by Jordan Carlisle and James Black. The day after Rangers beat St Johnstone 1-0 at Ibrox, courtesy of a Ianis Hagi strike. Now, before we get into this, we're almost at 5,000 subscribers, so if you're watching this and you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe to the channel. The more likes, the more subscriptions that we get, the more time we can put into the content, and hopefully the more entertaining it'll be. So if you are a Rangers fan and you want to keep up to date with all the news, views and opinions coming out of the club, then please click like and please click subscribe. And if you feel up to it, join the conversation below in the comment section. But so let's get charged on with this. Obviously, it's another win for Rangers. I think it's their 6th domestic 1-0 win of the season. I think 7 in total if you include the Lech Poznan game. It's a 21st clean sheet. It wasn't exactly the prettiest performance, and I think half of the Rangers support probably. Okay. Hello and welcome to the Rangers News YouTube channel. My name is Cameron Willis and I'm joined by Jordan Carlisle and James Black. The day after Rangers beat St Johnstone 1-0 at Ibrox, courtesy of a Ianis Hagi strike. Now, before we get into this, we're almost at 5,000 subscribers, so if you're watching this and you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe to the channel. The more likes, the more subscriptions that we get, the more time we can put into the content, and hopefully the more entertaining it'll be. So if you are a Rangers fan and you want to keep up to date with all the news, views and opinions coming out of the club, then please click like and please click subscribe. And if you feel up to it, join the conversation below in the comment section. But so let's get charged on with this. Obviously, it's another win for Rangers. I think it's their 6th domestic 1-0 win of the season. I think 7 in total if you include the Lech Poznan game. It's a 21st clean sheet. It wasn't exactly the prettiest performance, and I think half of the Rangers support probably missed the first half, but because of Rangers TV. But if there was ever to be a first half of football to miss, that would probably have been it. Initial thoughts on the game, James. What did you think of the match?
Well, it was comfortable enough. As kind of poor on the eyes it was for long spells. Rangers never looked like dropping points last night. They were a bit wasteful in front of goal, but even you went in at half time and it could have been 3-4 nothing. There was a couple of really, really good chances. Tav had one, Roofe had a couple. So I could have easily been well in front long before we were. But these are the kind of games that win you titles. There's going to be games, and there's been games this season, and there's going to be more before the season's out, where you're going to have to grind and just kind of get on with it and pump out a win.
What were you, Jordan? What did you think of the match?
Yeah, sort of similar. I think that was the one thing that I really took out of the first half. Obviously, it was tough with the stream kicking in and out and all that. But I mean, obviously there was quite a lot of negative reaction to the performance and the thought that it was fairly dull. But I agree with James. I thought Rangers created quite a lot. There was a Goldson chance in there as well, from the Tav free kick, which he's unmarked 6 yards out, and the form he's been in this year, you'd expect him to put that away. So I thought Rangers actually the first 5-10 minutes started quite brightly and were pinging it about nicely. And then obviously it dropped off a little bit from there. But I mean, I thought they created enough to be well in front at the break. And yeah, it was just, I didn't think, in terms of the performances, sometimes I think they've dropped off when they haven't had that constant 2 games a week, 3 games, the quick turnaround and with a bit of a break in between and bigger games maybe on the horizon and the lack of pressure. I thought it was unlikely to be a huge performance, but I thought it was a very decent one in terms of very decent result and nothing too much to complain about. I didn't think from a Rangers perspective. It was just job done.
Yeah, well dug out, I think it's a phrase a few people have used regarding it, and it was, we got the victory in the end, and I think it's kind of symbolic of the feeling with this Rangers team that we're going to be so hard to beat and so hard to even concede a goal, and the fact that it's our 6th 1-0 win of the domestic season shows that once we get in front, we're so difficult to break down. I think that was evident yesterday. It was one major performance, I thought, from the first half. I thought he was a standout player in the first half. I don't know about you, James, but what did you think about Joe Aribo? Do you think that he's getting back to his best?
Yeah, first 45, I thought he was fantastic. I mean, Jordan was saying just about the kind of negative reaction to the performance. And when you look at probably 8 or 9 of the players, there's very few of them actually put a foot wrong, and Aribo's one of them. He was strong, he was quick, he showed some really nice footwork at times, and it's looking much more like the player that it was in the first kind of stages of the season. The big problem for me with Aribo was that he dropped off quite badly, I thought, as the game went on. And first maybe 40, 45 minutes, he looked really good, but the second half I thought he did struggle to kind of involve himself and really influence the game.
What about you, Jordan? What do you make of Aribo's performance?
Yeah, I think it's a difficult one to say when he's back in form, because I think that inconsistency is the big issue, isn't it? So, there's every chance that he goes out the weekend and doesn't do a great deal. But I thought he was brilliant the first half, but yeah, clearly the standout player. And I thought it was a little bit different from what you normally see from him. Normally, when he plays well, he's gliding past players and that sort of stuff. I did think he was still beating players, and his feet are just standout in terms of being better than everyone else in the pitch. But I also thought he was showing a bit of aggression. He looked up for it a couple of times when he was fouled. He was sort of going after opposition players. And he looked like he had something about him in terms of an aggression that's not normally there, which I thought was really positive, because as we've talked about multiple times before, it's that sort of lack of willingness maybe around the 50-50s and stuff like that, where there's question marks about him in terms of whether he's a better option than an Arfield for big games. But I thought he showed plenty of bite in the first half. Yeah, the thing is that again, he leaves the game without actually necessarily affecting it that much, which is something he needs to work on. So there's a few times, I think there was one in the second half where he did a nice little jink, went past someone, and then proper hammered a pass at Roofe that he was never going to be able to do anything with. And I think there's still an element of panic in around the box with him at times. But the chance that he set Roofe up for in the first half, I mean, he couldn't have done any more there. Some great feet out wide, great cross, and sometimes it's just a matter of luck, or you leave it in your hands of your teammate as to whether he's finishing it off in terms of whether you get an assist or not. So you can't really blame him to that end. But I thought there was some really positive aspects to it and some different aspects than what we normally see.
I think the different thing is interesting, because when I was watching him and he was obviously standing out, and I thought he played in that midfield role, and he was so quick to get across and cover, so quick to cover the fullbacks, and it was a much more kind of tactically disciplined performance for Aribo, I thought, and it was impressive. I think he maybe kind of enjoys playing a wee bit further forward, but it was focused and kind of determined. I hope he can get back to that form from the start of the season, because he was tremendous and he looked like he was going to be a major player for us, and it'll be interesting to see just how big an influence he can play in like Europe and stuff, because I think that he's got ability, and if we can get that out of him every week, it'll be a major boost. But obviously the first half had one kind of major incident away from the kind of Rangers chances, and it's a Roofe tackle. I think every Rangers fan probably agrees it should have been a red card. It was a bad tackle. I don't think there's any malice in it. I don't think he went out to hurt the guy. But James, for you, was it a red card?
Oh, every day, absolute straight red card for me. As you say, there's no malice in it. It was just a lazy challenge. And to be fair, when you watch Roofe, that's the kind of tackles he makes a lot of the time. I think defensively, he puts himself about a lot and he's really good positionally, but his tackling leaves a lot to be desired. And last night was just when he got caught out with. His timing wasn't there, and he was a very, very lucky boy.
What about you, John?
Yeah, I don't know. It's always difficult when you talk about players' intent, because obviously no one knows other than the player who's actually going into it. I thought it was quite big of Callum Davidson to come out afterwards and not make a big deal of it, not make that the reason that they lost the game, and say that he didn't think there was any intent in it. It was a bad challenge, and I think initially you're only really getting one view of it. But even in that, it just looked to me where the first opening stages of the game, he hadn't had much go for him, much fall for him. The ball got away from him, and he was frustrated at himself. So I'm not saying that he's going in trying to hurt the guy, but there was a frustration and a force behind a tackle that means it's 100% a red card. So look, I think there's a lot of talk and a lot of debate about referee and stuff and controversies and who favours who and who's a member of what organisation and all that. But I mean, Rangers have got away with one twice in 2 weeks. So in terms of people pointing fingers and stuff, I think it's maybe one to keep the head down and not debate it too much, because it's worked out for Rangers very well in 2 games where, you know, their number 9 could have been sent off well inside the first half, and things could have went a lot differently. So he was lucky to get away with it at the time.
I think it's different for the Morelos one in that it's actually like forming part of the game. I think Morelos is just like a kick out in it. You know, they're 2 different types of things. But I think you're spot on with Callum Davidson coming out and not using it as an excuse. But Roofe and Hole, I thought was a little bit off the pace. I know it's his first start since the Old Firm.
I thought it was very poor, to be honest. Really unimpressed with him last night.
I thought it was very poor. And the thing is, that's happened before. I think in his early Rangers career, he had a couple of matches like that. I think that maybe he's prone to an off game, but we've obviously seen what he can do. But for me, was that maybe a sign that in a match where they're going to have 3 centre backs up behind you every game, that we should have maybe started Cedric Itten, who is, what does the guy have to do for the start?
I'm not convinced that Kamal Roofe's a number 9. Because there's been a couple of occasions now where he's been the one that's been picked to lead the line. St Mirren rings a bell that he started at number 9 and just really didn't influence the game, very little involvement. And he seems to be somebody that suits more kind of having that space to drift into, and the kind of wider role that Hagi's been in. So yeah, I'd like to have seen that, and I think it was quite telling that Gerrard made the change relatively early, because Gerrard's prone to kind of leaving his changes till late on, and 5 minutes for the end. I think it was about 65, 66 minutes that he brought Roofe off, so I think he saw what we were seeing. I hope he did at least.
I'd sort of say that I think it's interesting that when Roofe came, he said that as far as he was concerned, he'd been signed as a number 9. So obviously he feels he can play that position and it's his best position, but I think, yeah, the evidence is that it's probably not. I think regarding the sub, it probably would have been made at that stage anyway, just because it was his first start. So I think there's a lot of planning and stuff around players at the minute, especially him, given his injury history. But yeah, I think it's the one thing I was sort of sitting thinking about is that this year or this season, Rangers haven't relied on Morelos's goals, which is a big thing. It's a big shift, and I think it shows a lot of progression. But I still think they rely on him in terms of the playing shape and the style. They haven't managed to get someone in yet, even though they've signed several forwards that can replicate what he does in terms of his movement and just the physical presence, and bringing in defenders, attracting them towards him. I don't think they've managed to find that yet. Now, Cedric Itten might be that in long term, but we actually just don't know because he hasn't played enough games. He looked very much the part against away like Poznan, and then he struggled a bit in the same role at St Mirren in the League Cup. So I mean, he hasn't had much opportunity, but I think at the minute that's one thing that, looking forward, Rangers need to find out a way not to replace Morelos in terms of goals, but in terms of what he offers other than that.
I completely get that point. I think that's going to be very difficult just because of how good Morelos is. Like at this level in particular, there's loads of transfer talk obviously about Morelos all the time, but he's a very good player at this level. It's going to be very difficult to replace him anyway. And like you say, he's that kind of focal point that drops deep and stuff, and he's just a nightmare for defenders. And it's going to be difficult to get somebody of that stature anyway. I'd say, but I would like to see more of Cedric Itten. I thought even when he came on, he was good. And I think we've used terms like honest and that to describe him before. And there's times when maybe he could have shot, but I think his link up play is good, and he makes the right pass and the right decision. He's a very unselfish forward, and hopefully we'll see him this weekend. But I thought that game against St Johnstone, who you knew were going to come with basically 2 rows of 5, I think that when they were defending, that's what the formation kind of morphed into. I thought that it was suited for him, and more so than Roofe. And Roofe was lucky to be on the pitch in the end. Second half, the stewing issues kind of sorted themselves out a wee bit, but the match wasn't too fantastic. And I thought the Rangers started it very well, the second half, and it was probably our best period of the game. And from that came a goal. Now, I know you're a huge big fan of Ianis Hagi, James, so I'll let you kind of talk us through that goal.
Yeah, it was a really nice bit of attacking play, cutting in from the right and eventually getting a shot off that down below, like the bottom corner, Xander Clark had little we could do about it. It changed the game, it killed the game off completely. I think the pace had kind of dropped out of it, maybe the half-hour mark anyway. And although we'd taken control after the restart, it didn't have any real intensity, any real pace. And that finishes. St Johnstone looked more than happy just to shut up shop and damage limitation for here on in, and it was keep ball. I think it was something like 700 passes Rangers completed last night. So it shows you just how dominant they were.
Yeah. What did you think of Hagi's goal and Andy's performance, John?
Yeah, I think he has been excellent for a while now, hasn't he? And in terms of, you still know that not everything he's going to try is going to come off, but I mean, he does have great vision. And I think one thing that people complained about quite a lot of the last few years is an apparent total lack of willingness to shoot from distance from anyone in the Rangers team, and he bucks that trend massively because every time he plays, he likes to get a couple off at least, and he's 2-footed. He can shoot from both sides as well, which makes him more difficult to block. And I think the goal was very similar to the Braga one, wasn't it? The first one that sparked that comeback, and that's obviously something he likes doing, that cutting inside. I thought it was also interesting because very few times this year, you'll see the Rangers player who's in that inside forward role being wider than the fullback, and that's what happened in the lead up to that goal. It was Tav plays it off to him and he picks it up really wide, because the whole thing is that Michael Beale will say, and all the Rangers coaches will say, we don't play with wingers, we play with the inside forwards, but he actually was wide, and the space that he was in to start off with, I think, allowed him to see the opportunity to cut in and do something. So that having that variety, I think, is good, especially if you're trying to play against a block. They don't just know that your man's going to be inside and you're going to be feeding it to the fullback. Changing the two roles, I think, is interesting. And yeah, I mean, his numbers are now really good, aren't they? It's a guy who's still young, still developing, but he's got as many assists as Tav at the top in terms of the Premiership chart. He's got 4 or 5 goals now, and important ones as well. So he's doing a really good job.
The really interesting thing about Hagi for me as well, see, when you bring him in, did you catch his interview on Rangers TV last night? He spoke about he wants to exploit his ability to shoot. It's something that he's comfortable doing. And I mean, it's not going to be a surprise to say the guy's technically brilliant. And I think having somebody like that in the side that's got that willingness to just go, I'm going to have a shot at goal from 25, 30 yards, and can do it on both feet, can do it for pretty much anywhere, and he's unerringly accurate. It's not as if we're talking a guy who's you looked at something like Roofe years ago, who it was 1 out of every 20 would hit the target. Hagi has an effort from distance, and more often than not, if it's not on target, it's really damn close. And it's something that's going to be really important, especially the last couple of months of the season. The teams start getting really, really defensive, because it's scrap for survival team for a lot of teams now. They're not going to be coming to Ibrox and being open and being willing to come out and try and play us a bit. It's going to be 2 banks of 5, and we're going to have to break them down. And I think having that talent in Hagi is just going to be so crucial.
He's got a kind of really good asset for Rangers. I think when you think about, we paid £3 million for him, I think he'll go for much more than that in the future. He's only 22. I thought the goal was great. I thought that he was just kind of shaping and shoot, and the defenders were kind of just waiting for his moment. Personally, I think the goalkeeper should probably do better. To be honest, watching it back when I was watching it, I was like, "Whoa, what a goal!" And it was a great goal. It was a great finish, and he got it down low. But I did on reflection, I think the goalkeeper should have maybe did better. But it was the only goal of the game. Like you say, the game was kind of just us passing it around. It wasn't the greatest match, and there's been maybe a little bit of criticism online and stuff, but I think that's what happens when you're setting the standards so high and stuff. You can't win every game. with kind of swashbuckling football, you need to find a way to get a result, and we found a way with a wee bit of quality from Hagi, and he's now becoming like, it's almost impossible to leave the guy out. You know, it's making that kind of right hand side thing his own, which means that for the three strikers, Roofe and Morelos, it means that they're really competing for the one spot, because you've got Kent on one side and Hagi on the other, and it makes it really, really interesting going forward. And I think that he's got like a bite and a tenacity, you know, in his game now, and a work rate that maybe he hasn't had in his earlier career. And I think it's a testament to the management team for developing him like that. And I'm excited to see what the future holds for Ianis Hagi, because I think he's going to be a big player for us. Yeah, so there's another win. We're now 17 points away from 55. I think that's 6 matches, which, I don't know, does that take us to Celtic Park? 6 matches? I think it does.
I think if you win the 6, it'd be the one before. I think it's St Mirren at home.
Is it Dundee United?
Mm-hmm.
Is it so it's Dundee United? So we can win it at Ibrox then for St Mirren.
I think so, yeah.
I mean, I think it's unlikely that we drop any points between now and then. So I think that
come on, Dundee United, Livingston, St Mirren. Celtic is the 6th.
Oh, right now.
See, I thought that. So we're technically on track to win it at Celtic Park. Now, what a season finale that would be, man! I just can't imagine the streets of Glasgow would be like.
To be honest, I would rather go there as champions. I don't want them to have that slivery hope that they could delay us winning the title by beating us. You know, I want to go there and I want to revel in their misery to the very second we get there until the last second we leave. I don't want to be going there and to be a potential title party that blows up in our face, because when they've had a shit show of a season and they're going to cling to that like they're clinging to it. It's just, I don't want them to have that wee, tiny measure of hope. We go there and we laugh at them for the second we get there, the second we leave.
So I think
and I want the Guardiola.
I think that's quite attractive as well. I think like I mentioned Morelos laughing in Scott Brown's face when we're 3 as champions. Just taking a
picture of Alfredo Morelos' face as he walks down the tunnel at Celtic Park with Scott Brown at the side of the pitch, giving it that. I mean, Jesus Christ, man, that's like all my Christmases come at once.
I mean, it's so possible. I think if we go there as champions, I think the wind up is on. You know, I don't think they'll take it very well at all. I think that it would be interesting, but we're edging closer. And
can either of you to remember May 1999? I was
only 25. Like
I was 13. It was a bagging that until the goal went in and it was like, this is done. Oh, Jesus Christ, man, it was horrible. It was a horrible, horrible day. Waking up that morning thinking this could go tits up. I don't want that, man. I want to go there and I want to know that Neil Lennon's going to have to be standing at the side of the pitch, absolutely spewing, watching as these players, and as he's held back to his own words, I want to point out, he said he would do it if the shoe was in the other foot, because when it kicked off for us a couple of seasons ago, we didn't give them a Guardiola at Ibrox, and Lennon was giving it the big I am, and he says, well, we would do it. Good. It's time to put him to the test.
There's not a hope in hell.
Not a chance. I want to see the meltdown that ensues.
I just can't. They're just going to, you know, for well they were at the wind up then. I think Chris Sutton was saying it in that as well. He was like, oh, if we give them a Guardiola, I went, nah, no way.
Not a chance at all, but watching the wriggling and the squirming, and I know there's not going to be many that will bring it up, but somebody will bring up the fact that, Neil, you said this a couple of seasons ago.
No, someone will.
And given everything that's going on this season, I mean, we're not talking a season where they've been picked to the title by a point. It has been an absolute unmitigated disaster for them. And that's going to be the one that sets him from just, you know, on the brink of meltdown to full-on Chernobyl stuff here. So bring it on, man. I actively want them to drop more points before we go there, so we're going there as champions.
No, I think both have their kind of attractions. You know, we can't control what happens, but one thing that I think is evident is that this Rangers team aren't going to be dropping points in a hurry. I mean, the defense is just so solid. Like, you know, it's just don't look like conceding as well, Jordan. But something you said, I think it was about the Hibs match. You're talking about Hilander's line. Like yesterday, man, the line is so high. Hilander's taking the ball on about 15 yards into the opposition half, and that it's just domination. It's impressive from Rangers.
I also think it's just incredible. I can't remember ever watching a team where there was a couple of times that actually, again, Hagi was out wide and he's whipping it into the box from the right-hand side, and Tav is like in the 6-yard box trying to get on the end of it. Like a team that's so confident in the way that they play that the right back is essentially came in and done an arcing run to get into the middle of the box. It's not as if he's like arriving at, you know, really late at the back post from across from the left. Like he's bombing into the box and just completely leaving that because he has full trust in the centre backs and also the midfielders to cover it. It's just like all out attack at times, and his responsibility, like the lessening of the burden obviously on him in terms of how organised and stuff the team is just amazing. And Guy McAllister was talking about that afterwards as well. He was like, at any level of football, I think there are a few exceptions to this, like your Messis and your Neymars. You don't see them doing too much work defensively, but he said at any level of football, players now have a job to do in terms of defensively, and everyone's prepared to do that. And he talked about it at Hibs near the end. Ryan Kent went to chase something down in injury time, and he said everyone on the bench was up applauding him, and he said that just sort of struck him at the time as a sign of togetherness and what everyone's prepared to do. Because I mean, that last night was Ryan Kent's 26th start in 27 matches in the league, so it's not as if he's fresh. And obviously everyone's willing to work for it. So yeah, it's remarkable.
What shows me how willing the players are to work for everything is that, like, I was doing the player ratings last night, and I was sitting trying to think. It took me a while to think of many occasions where Connor Goldson and Philip Hilander's name was mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's because of the work that's been done by the likes Jack, Davis, even Kent, Hagi, and I criticised some of Hagi's defensive work on the preview video. But I thought last night when he was needed to come back and fill in, he came back and he filled in. So it just shows how absolutely dominant they are that I can barely remember having, like, in a defensive sense at least, anything involving Helander and Goldson really.
No, we're definitely a great wee team, and I think this is like the as finally hitting a groove this season. You know what I mean? And I think we can enjoy this for a while, and hopefully nobody comes along and pinches too many of our good players, because it's very impressive to watch. Rangers, they just look they're just a machine at the minute. But any closing kind of thoughts on the match, lads, at all?
That's I think it was a nice solid win. That was to kind of mark a champions if I tempt fate a little bit.
Yeah, just job done.
If you're not, I'm waiting for the commentators to start calling us the champions elect. When's that going to happen?
Yeah.
When's it going to happen, man?
Next
Come on,
point. So who have you got this weekend?
Hamilton. We'll do a preview.
Who Celtic got this weekend?
Not sure.
It'll be a home game.
If they drop points this weekend, that'll be it. They'll start calling us champions elect from there on. Once it gets beneath a countdown of 15.
Okay, that's it. There we go. You have it. You heard it here first. Anyways, thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Like I said at the start of the video, please click like and subscribe, because we're nearly at 5,000. We're getting there. And yes, if you're a Rangers fan and want to be kept up to date with all the latest news, views, and opinions, then subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for watching. On the Rangers.